Okay, hey guys. So, as we're joining, even if you are being muted by D in the corner, don't be afraid to put your cameras on. Obviously, take your mic off mute as well, and let's have a chat. If anyone wants to talk about how their week has been so far, it'd be good. Even introducing yourself. If you've only just started KMAC or if you've been at KMAC for years, it'd be good to know how other people's journeys are going as well. So, yeah, anyone who wants to turn their camera on, have a little bit of a speak. Rita, I can see that you have your camera on as well. It's nice to see you. How you doing? How's your journey going so far?
I'm doing good. I'm glad I'm able to join it for the first time. Thank you.
Oh, for the first time. Oh, nice. Are you excited to find out the 10 secrets?
I'm excited to be able to join.
Oh, nice. I'm excited myself, even though it's a secret, so I need Dee to tell me what they are. Yeah. Anyone else who wants to turn their camera on? Let's have a talk. Mina, I can see that you got your camera on as well. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm not in the car this week, so I thought I would turn my camera on. But yeah, the week's been pretty good. Just I'm really busy. Yeah, working from home some of this morning, and I also have my youngest one at home. She has a day off from school, so I'm sorry, she just gave a wave in the background somewhere. So yeah, but it's been a pretty good week. And yeah, just getting back to being consistent after a couple of weekends where I was out of town. So that's always fun.
How was your time out of town? Did you enjoy it?
It was good. I think Sam probably knows that we were in Vegas
I
last
was gonna
weekend.
say it was a trip to Vegas, wasn't it? Good fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was very busy and like a lot of fun, but a lot of running around. And then of course at the end, so this always happens whenever we go to uptown, there's somebody in the house that has a crisis. It's like inevitable. So one of the three kids or somebody else. And so this time we have a pet rabbit at home. So my middle one is a big animal lover, and we have a pet rabbit, and she apparently had like a big medical issue, and it was like lethal. And so we had to like rush from the airport and meet her at the veterinary surgeon's clinic or whatever to like save her life. So it was just this big thing. All of Sunday was spent sort of figuring that out. So anyway, that's what happens when you have kids and you go out of town.
I'm busy. I'm guessing very, very busy as well.
Very,
I'm
yes.
I'm glad everything's actually going okay for yourself.
Yes.
But guys, you're all here. If you all want to connect as well, put your Instagram in the chat. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to obviously grow with the Kmart family, get to know each other a little bit more as well. It'd be good. I know, Divya, you had your camera on for a quick second as well, waiting to say hi if you want to come back. But yeah, let's get our Instagram in the group chat. I think there's a lot of people that definitely want to follow each other, get to know each other a little bit more. We have a big family here at KMAC, so let's definitely put it in and get to know each other a little bit more. Whilst we're putting that in as well, I think something that's also going to be very beneficial. Oh, there, Divya, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm having a great week. What about yourself?
Oh, good. I have the kind of similar situation than Minal. We are traveling this week, so I'm just trying to get everything together and create a sort of idea for our nutrition for this weekend, and trying to get our workouts in before we head out for the weekend. And we recently purchased the tonal, which we're really enjoying as a family. And I got my son here. He's also home from school, and he is starting to get on with it as a partner family workout. So, we're just doing the best we can, I guess, like all of us.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
So generation after generation, everyone's getting involved,
that's
isn't it?
right.
That's exactly
That's
what we
right.
said.
Future KMAC client over here.
Yeah, yeah, we're waiting for you, buddy. We're waiting for
That's
you.
right. That's right.
But that's good that you're having a good day, having a good week so
Yeah.
far. Yeah, guys, keep putting your Instagram in the chat as well. And whilst we're doing that, if no one has seen the question of the day as of yet on Facebook, I also want to know, I'm sure others want to know that what is your favorite or most favorite healthy snack? Let's start to put some options in the group chat as well, in the chat. So, what is
Does
your
it have to be healthy?
favorite healthy snack? D's gonna say peanut butter and something else, right?
Just not
Cheetos.
something
It's got
else.
to be
Just a spoon of
Cheetos.
peanut butter.
Cheetos and peanut butter. That's the way to
I
go.
love a cheeky spoon of peanut butter.
But yeah, guys, definitely want to see some healthy snacks. I think I need some more myself as well, so can get a good few options from you guys going from there.
I think for me, it's generally like my go-to there would be, well, a Fit and Fresh is a shout.
Yeah.
There's Sedge.
Yes, that okay. Fit and fresh is the way forward for sure.
I've got loads of Fit and Fresh back with me to Florida.
Here she is.
Hi, Sarah.
Bye.
Today at the meeting, Zach mentioned Fit and Fresh. Immediately after I went on website, I did my first order. Only Biscoff and white chocolate and peanut butter.
They're the best two anyway.
No.
Oh, that's what
Bounty.
we're fighting in New Jersey. Who's gonna eat them?
Bounty's a new one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
I might have to try that one.
I went to Sedge's house and fleeced about 15 of them.
You and Knarr finished like 2 boxes of my Fit and Fresh bars. I'm just saying.
Anyway,
And Matt.
we should more than likely get into today's topic. So, but before we do that, do you want to tell us about the giveaway this week, David?
Basically trapped it out.
So, guys, if you wanna, I think Dee's about to get up now. The screen that he's gonna share. If we're gonna screenshot this, put it on your Instagram story, tag either myself, Dee, Sam, or your coach, and then you have a chance to win a $250 Hypervolt voucher as well. So you can get many things on there, anything to do with rehab, if it's just gonna be a massage gun. So just make sure you're gonna screenshot this, put it on your Instagram, and then tag either myself, Dee, or Sam, or your coach on there. But yeah, let's get tagging and your chance to win.
Awesome. Right. I think I'll leave that on screen for a second. Sam, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So obviously, I think a lot of people are here to achieve fat loss goals. So naturally, quite an important topic in that respect. We did mention we'd have kind of 10 things to go through, but I think we're essentially going to end up having a bit of an open discussion just generally here about fat loss, right? And essentially it comes down to 2 things. And those 2 things that underpin being able to achieve fat loss are going to be your energy expenditure and your total energy intake, because that overall dictates your caloric balance on a day-to-day basis. And that's going to dictate whether we see weight gain, weight maintenance, or overall weight loss as well. So first and foremost, I think we all know nutritionally there has to be some degree of control over nutritional intake, right? And personally, I would always suggest that the method of restricting nutritional intake that feels the least restrictive to you is a really, really nice place to start. So typically we'll do sort of caloric tracking or meal planning or something like that so that we get a good idea. And that's a nice place to have kind of education around nutrition, I think, where you learn, okay, what can actually fit into a meal. Bless you. Or you have the ability to have flexibility throughout the day. So those work typically really, really nicely. But like I say, I think there's ultimately a lot of different variety of methods that can go into that. Like I say, I think the way I like to look at it is what's the least or what's the method of caloric restriction that feels least restrictive to you generally works quite nicely.
Yeah. Like the reality is, like, being in a deficit is like, it's not super fun. You have to sacrifice a degree of like nutrition freedom. That is just the reality of things. You do have to be able to have that degree of like restriction on things if you want to be successful. Like, you can't essentially have your cake and eat it too. Tanya, anything that kind of comes to mind for yourself as an important point that people should be considering for like adherence to fat loss?
So one of the things that are really important, and I noticed in my fat loss in the past 6 months, was definitely including the foods that I do enjoy. And what works for me the most is, I heard a lot of people call this if it fits your macros kind of thing, which means that I include the things that I enjoy into my meal plan, and then I reverse engineer everything else. So it kind of fits into my macros and calories while also meeting my protein goal, which is obviously going to be quite important on this journey. So this is what worked for me the best, because otherwise it's going to come to the point where you will be mentally fatigued by not being able to eat things. And also mentally, if you say to yourself, oh, I can't have it, it's just going to be a little bit harder. You're going to see this journey as really like you have to really sacrifice things, when actually you can have a bit of everything, just in moderation, basically.
Awesome. So I know you're very close to your photo shoot at the moment, and I know Sam has been coaching you through it as well. What has been like the biggest learning for yourself?
The biggest learning, well, nothing that, I mean, I don't want to sound like arrogant, but nothing that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
But it just really, I liked how I was basically being accountable. That was the first one. I had to report to someone. There couldn't be like, oh, I can just, make the weekend and do whatever I want, because there was results that I was chasing anyway. Other than that, I think the training made a big difference as well, focusing and how Sam was educating me. But nutrition-wise, I did implement the most, especially in the last couple of weeks, because it was a little bit harder. I implemented things that I actually enjoyed eating. And I know you guys were talking before about healthy snacks. And one of the things that I discovered and I never used before is I mixed yogurt and protein powder. Now, I know you all did it before, and I always
Zach.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I always
Especially.
Yeah, it always sounded a little bit disgusting to me, but it's not. Guys, it's really not, especially because I found a hazelnut chocolate protein powder by Optimum Nutrition. It tastes like Nutella. So I have been having that once or twice a day, and that was the biggest discovery.
Once or twice a day? I thought you were going to say once or twice a week.
No.
I love it.
Okay, I think like one of the things that we chat about actually that is arguably overrated is protein. Protein is arguably overrated when it comes to like body fat loss. Protein is super important when it comes to muscle gain.
Yeah.
Like having sufficient levels of protein in
Thank you so much.
is really important when it comes to optimizing muscle gain. But in terms of like body fat loss, it's the beneficial effects of protein largely stem from its higher kind of thermic effect of feeding. So us like even like metabolizing protein and getting it into our system, like essentially we burn about 20% of the calories in the protein itself, just metabolizing it. So it does have the highest thermic effect of feeding, but there's other things that are uniquely beneficial to protein. One of the things is like generally it's like texture and how long it takes you to chew. So it actually increases the duration of which you're eating. And what that gives is your stomach a lag time to actually send that signal to your brain that you're eating and that you are satiated. When we eat something that's like really hyperpalatable and calorie dense, we finish it really quickly. So our brain doesn't really even receive a signal that we're full or satiated. So that's one of the things that does happen with protein. But the overarching thing that's going on with protein is its overall energy density. So our energy density is essentially it's the calories in a food divided by the weight of it. So we get a little bit of a score of what that food's energy density is. And when it comes to like the foods that are helpful for fat loss, it's largely dictated by its energy density. And that's why like I'm sure all clients here are sick and tired of hearing their coaches telling them to increase their consumption of fruit and veggies, because that's essentially what's happening. You're making these big voluminous plates that allow our stomachs to signal that we're satiated with minimal calories. Sam, on the topic of protein, anything else in particular pop up for you?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it pretty well, to be honest, mate. I would say the thermic effect of food thing kind of links back to what I was discussing before, in terms of having that balance between intake and expenditure, right? And thermic effect of food is essentially, as Dee said, going to be how much energy is required to actually break down this calorie, this gram of whatever macronutrient, right? And that is going to be the case for all foods. So as you say, protein is around about 20 to 30%, I think. Fats sit around the lowest.
1 or 2%.
Yeah. And then carbohydrates, I'm not sure on the exact numbers, but maybe 5 to 10% of the calories that you get from carbohydrates would be kind of utilized towards digesting that. So protein intake could increase caloric expenditure, it's not necessarily going to be a huge gap. So say we went from 100 grams of protein to 120, is your expenditure going to drastically increase? Not necessarily. But potentially if we're going from a very low protein intake initially, say somewhere around 50, and we bump that up to sort of 120 in that instance, that could be a decent little chunk that could be very, very helpful.
Yeah. A lot of the things that happens when you get your nutrition into a spot when you're in a deficit is this displacement effect. Yeah. Okay. So you eat more protein, you eat more fruit, you eat more veg. And as a function of doing that, you eat less hyperpalatable calorie dense foods. And as a function of that displacement, that's actually what's creating the deficit there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So essentially every time you love to say this, every time you eat something, you're not eating something else. So if you're eating something that's very, very low energy density, high in protein, you're not eating something that's potentially high energy density on the opposing side of that.
Cool. Zach, any top tips when it comes to fat loss that pop up for you?
Wow. No, well, staying on the topic of like nutrition, I think Tanya even just like mentioned something just prior, like the weighing out of food. Honestly, it's such a game changer. As soon as she said that earlier, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's actually massive, to be fair. When it comes around to protein, when it comes around to anything, it just makes it so much easier. I think also when it comes around to like the nutritional development, you start to notice it more when you start weighing stuff out. Like intrinsically, say for example, if you do this very consistently over, even a short period of time, like 2 weeks, naturally you'll tend to know how much you'll have in a day. If you don't have access to a scale, if you start traveling, and you have to sort of sort out your own macros whilst on the road, you can start to clock out how much of what macros you might need to have the rest of the day. Possibly be like, right, okay, I've done quite well on my protein. I can, rest up on that. So I think that's a massive game changer as well. It's just like making sure you're quite on it with measuring food, this, that, and the other. So yeah, that's a pretty good tip, that one.
It's essentially one of them things where like, if you're not tracking, you can still be in a deficit, but you can very quickly be in too much of a deficit, too little of a deficit. It's next to impossible to just kind of gauge these things. And don't get me wrong, it's a little bit annoying at the start, like having to weigh out your food and like track them in an app and things like that. It actually is, it can be difficult to do. But once you give yourself the time of getting used to it, like it just becomes second nature, and you don't need to do it with absolutely everything, but taking this time and using it as a bit of an educational period to see what serving sizes look like, it's really, really helpful. And then
it's like a short-term cost for a long-term gain, isn't it? So it's massive.
Exactly. That is precisely it. And you can kind of get away with fat loss kind of half tracking for your first half of your transformation. That's what kind of happens with a lot of individuals that kind of semi-track for their first like half of their transformation, and then all of a sudden they won't be losing body fat anymore, and they haven't built the skill of tracking, and they're left like halfway towards the goal being like, oh, I don't necessarily know what's going on. So if you use that kind of start to get used to tracking things, getting familiar with just the process of it all, it makes the entire transformation a lot easier.
I think with tracking, as we are talking about it, a lot of my clients are saying, I didn't know 10 grams of peanut butter looks like that, right? I couldn't show it, but it's much smaller than we basically mean, right? So that is a big discovery. And also with oils, we know that 1 gram of fat has 9 calories, and it's so easy to overeat on that. And sometimes we're cooking, you feel like you're tracking everything, but if you're not tracking those little things, like especially things high in fat, peanut butter, oils, whatever you're cooking with butter, when you start tracking that, you can easily just, get into the deficit by just tracking those little things. That's why I always recommend, the spray and track your oils.
Yeah, I think it's arguably the one thing that most people do wrong. I think that's the thing that takes you actually out of your deficit. Because if you overeat heavily on carbohydrates and protein, you know about it because you're having big, massive meals. As opposed to you can feel like you're in a deficit because you're feeling like you're restricting yourself, but you're just not accurate enough in terms of your oil and dietary fat servings. And then all of a sudden you have a sneaky 500 calories creeping in just in terms of like sauces, eyeballing, oils. the food options that you select when eating out, little things like this can take you from still feeling like you're eating healthy, like you can be eating salads and things like that, but not actually being in a deficit. And you can be putting all of this work in, all of this effort, and feeling really disheartened because you're not kind of seeing that return on investment just because of like dietary fats creeping your overall calories up.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah.
And
Cool.
you can easily get frustrated then because you feel like, oh, I'm tracking everything, but nothing is changing, when actually it's just those little things. And then also, I feel like I put in the same box condiments, high fat mayo and all of that. My mom used to make salads with a lot of oils as well. So if you are putting oil in your salads, things like that. So just pay attention to those little things that can easily actually take you out of your deficit without you actually noticing.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. David, anything in particular pop up for you on the fat loss front?
Yeah, I think moving away from the nutrition side of things and actually going into your training is going to be definitely looking at more progressive overload. You want to make sure that you're always going into the gym aiming to do better than you did, obviously, the week before. Either you're increasing your reps or you're increasing your weight, or even looking at maybe time and attention. I think one of the main reasons for this that we forget about is that we want to make sure we have as more lean mass, right? That means we're going to be able to burn more calories at rest. So again, if you have more lean mass, if you look at 1 pound of muscle in comparison to fat tissue, you're going to be burning a little bit more, which is going to be great. So if you're able to do this during your progressive overload, during your training, it's going to be a lot more beneficial when it comes to actually fat loss. But if you're not training hard, if that intensity is not there, then it may just be a bit slower on that side of things as well. So that's one thing that I always think about is how hard are you really training, and are you aiming to improve in every set that you do or every week that you do on that front as well.
Cool. Okay, a question just come into the chat there, and this is something that I know all of us coaches have felt, and I'm going to come to Tanya to answer it. But essentially, the question is like a degree of frustration popping up about not noticing them results in yourself. We've all been there, because the reality is we can't really view ourselves objectively. We can't actually look at ourselves and notice them changes on a day-to-day basis, because the changes are so subtle. Like, we don't necessarily notice it. But if we see an individual, we see an individual at one stage and then we see them like 12 weeks later and we've after losing a substantial amount of body fat, other individuals will notice it before you notice it yourself. And it can come down to like being kind of hypercritical about yourself. Like that is one of them things that can drive that. Two is like actually not having that super objective view of how you're looking. And the next thing is like, that's the reason why like I'll go and get a coach. Sam will go get a coach if we were to go and do like a photo shoot or anything like that. So you can have somebody there who can objectively assess how things are. And Tanya, what's up?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really close to my photo shoot next week, and you all know I've been struggling with, is my progress like good enough? We basically call it body dysmorphia, where you don't see yourself. You see yourself in a distorted way, basically. And first thing I would say about it, you see yourself every day. Right? There's body checking. We stand in front of the mirror. So you see yourself every day. You will not be noticing these things as much. Second thing, definitely compare your first photo to your latest one and just be honest with yourself. You actually do. When you really look in, you do see the changes. You actually do. But are your expectations of yourself realistic? What are you expecting to see in, are you actually realistic? And then the third one is, which I had a chat with Sam last week, is we have this perfectionistic, I should be looking like this, I should be looking like this, when actually we need to kind of give ourselves credit that every little win matters. And then I have a fourth one. Try on old jeans. You're going to definitely see the difference. That's all I'm going to say. Put on jeans from a year ago and put it now. You're going to immediately feel good. That's it.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, and I think like one of the things that we also want to be mindful about is like when you have that goal of like fat loss, you can put a little bit too much weight and importance in it. Like it shouldn't be something that dictates, or it does, but it shouldn't necessarily be something that dictates your overall headspace and well-being. It should be something that just like I'm engaging in these healthy behaviors because I like how I feel when I train, when I eat well, when I sleep well. Like I like how I feel. I like how it affects my headspace. I like how it affects my productivity. And as a natural byproduct of that, like I actually do like the changes that are happening in my physique. But it shouldn't be like the first and foremost. If your primary goal during your KMAC experience is just like to change how you look, you're probably going to end up in a position where you're feeling a little bit disheartened at a later stage. If you can focus on, I'm eating well, I'm getting healthy, I'm getting stronger in my training, I'm loving this routine that I'm in, my energy levels are better, and like naturally my confidence is improving as well. That's kind of the sweet spot that we like as coaches, we really strive to help you to get towards.
Yeah, I think that comes down to gradually shifting your mindset towards being process oriented, right? Setting yourself process goals, which could come down to, okay, maybe you initially come in saying, I want to build 10 pounds of muscle. But instead of that, can we actually say, okay, what's going to help us build 10 pounds of muscle? Well, training 3 times a week would be a good place to start. So if we actually switch your goal from, I want to build 10 pounds of muscle to, I want to train 3 times a week and just focus on that habit and being consistent within that, you can then look at a successful week overall as, okay, did I get my training done? Rather than how has the scale moved this week?
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Another question coming into the chat there, essentially around like nutritional recommendations when eating with the family and how to navigate that whilst still pursuing fat loss. And this is difficult. Like this is difficult. There's no like other way about it, but it can still be done, and it really depends on like the frequency of the meals together. Like if this is something that you're doing like once every 2 weeks, no big deal. Like go just have some fun and enjoy yourself. That's something that can be baked into a successful transformation. If this is something that's done on a very regular basis, like you're having evening dinners together, which will be the case for a lot of people, that's when you need to have a little bit more control over things. Okay, so my first protocol there is actually making sure I am in control of what's actually being made. Like I'm making sure I am actually doing the cooking myself, so I can have a little bit more control over things. Or if my partner knows the goals that I'm trying to achieve, if they have the education on how to do that, that does make things a little bit easier as well. That is true. Okay. But if you can do the meal prepping yourself, it means that you can kind of measure out your portion sizes and do like cook your stuff in a separate pan. Like, it's a little bit more difficult to do. Yes, it's a little bit annoying, but it's a worthy sacrifice to make sure that you're controlling your nutrition. So that is an option. Okay, that's like the gold standard option to aim for. The next thing that you can do, let's say that doesn't sound super likely, not super feasible, then maybe what you do is you have the meal that your family is having. But what you're going to do is you're going to have half a serving of it, so half a plate of it, and then you're going to have serving of protein and a serving of veggies alongside that. Okay. If you were to have exactly what your family is having, not knowing the calories or anything like that, doesn't matter too much, and then have a quarter veggies and a quarter protein. As a function of doing that, you'll increase your protein, decrease the overall calories of the meal, and that in itself will be sufficient to make that entire meal lower in calories. And if you can still see scale weight coming down and still see body fat coming down, then that's something you can do for the duration of fat loss. The next thing is just like in the cookings, being like mindful of the oils, try and get as much veggies as possible in, and actually trying to make the family meals as health promoting as possible by incorporating in lots of like veg protein, whole food sources of carbohydrates. If you can do that, like there's a win in that as well. Anybody else?
Yeah, straight away I was just thinking, can we actually potentially get others involved in terms of just overall building a healthy meal, number one. And number two, it could just simply be, okay, maybe you take a meal that you typically sit down and eat and just simply make a couple of small swaps within that cooking process, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be anything drastic. An example that comes to mind, which maybe would be quite significant in terms of saving calories, is let's say we were sitting down to have a dish that maybe goes with rice with the family. Maybe it's a case of your family sits and have some sort of rice, but you do yourself a microwave bag of cauliflower rice or something like that. That's just a nice, easy, direct swap. And I think a lot of the kind of feeling of maybe isolation in that aspect comes from potentially you being the only one sat there with a plate that looks very, very different. And in that scenario, for example, your plate would still look absolutely exactly the same. You're all still sat around together eating the exact same meal as far as everyone's concerned. So, I think actually looking at direct swaps there can be very, very helpful as well.
Yeah. And even like take the go-to meals that you have on a regular basis for dinner. More than likely, families generally rotate between like 5-6 dinners that you have on a regular basis. Send them dishes over to your coach, ask your coach to make some modifications, and they'll send them back a little bit less energy dense, a little bit more protein dense, and then you'll have a new recipe that you can incorporate in. Something like that works as well.
Sure. This is a question that's for you, bro. Any protein options that kids can also enjoy for vegetarians other than lentils, tofu, and cottage cheese? First things that come to mind for me is going to be corn. Looking at different types of kind of mycoprotein there. So corn can be fantastic. I think you can get plenty of different options in the freezer section of most grocery stores, to be fair. You can kind of get mimic nuggets, things like that, things that look very, very kid friendly as well. So plenty of different options there. And these just gone ahead and posted plenty into the chat as well.
Yeah. That's kind of like a pretty damn comprehensive list of veggie protein options. It can be a little bit more difficult. You do have to get used to like just eating a lot of tofu, essentially, is what I do. And you just kind of suck it up. I actually despise tofu, but it
says other than tofu, lad.
Oh, well, that's my copied and pasted lists. Apologies about me.
But yeah,
top 3 here are lentils, tofu, and cottage cheese.
Yep.
There's a couple more there anyway.
Yep.
I wanted to touch a little bit on the ways of cooking. I discovered quite a lot of different ways that you kind of can save the calories by cooking a little bit differently. First thing, it's Christmas soon-ish, Black Friday. Get an air fryer. Like, it's so much easier to cook. You don't have to use a lot of oil. Second one is, instead of paste that I know a lot of people use, you just use herbs and spices. You're going to save on so much calories. And if you eat tofu every day, like you can maybe just use different herbs and spices every single day. So you're going to have a different flavor as well. So yeah, that's one of them.
If you can do, like, just get used to things being simple and on the border of boring. If you try and have these fancy meals that you're making all of the time and spending hours preparing, it doesn't really work very well. Like, you just end up getting burnt out and you've decision fatigue all over again. And that's the last thing that we want. So if you can create a nutrition structure where, like, breakfast, lunch, and snack, you kind of keep the exact same Monday to Friday. Dinner, maybe you've kind of 3 dinners that you rotate between that you know the calories on. And then maybe on the Saturday and Sunday, when you've a little bit more time, you want to experiment with setting a goal of being like, okay, I'm going to give myself 600 calories. How can I make a meal that's tasty, has 30 grams of protein, and below that 600 calories? A structure like that is generally really helpful to try and follow.
Yeah, that's why I eat that protein yogurt every day, the same one.
See, it works. I'm telling you, it works. You can hit your protein big time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was also going to touch on what Sam was just mentioning just then. Like, the simple swaps when it comes around to like single source carbs, stuff like that. You can make so many like different varieties of food. Say, for example, if you're just having like chicken and rice, that's one. Then you can have like Korean rice with chicken, Korean rice, and then you can swap out the rice for a wrap. You can make fajitas, you can make sort of tacos, stuff like that. If you keep on swapping out, you keep it fresh. You can swap it out for egg noodles, make like a stir fry that way. So it's super versatile. That's something that like you can really get from the meal planner as well. But yeah, that's something you just remind me there, Sam, with what you're mentioning with the swapping out stuff there. But it's honestly, it's something that's come up, I think, quite a lot recently coming into autumn. People just want maybe different variety of menus. I think that's really, really useful, like a great tip. But I also want to ask you guys something, you two in your room, looking cute together. Obviously, we're all meeting up in London. Obviously, you guys have been on the road, so a lot of our clients, and I'm assuming a lot of people in this call here, would also benefit from what you guys have done on the road, trying to obviously hit your macros. So it's quite easy to lean towards like very simple meal deal. But personally, if you could design it perfectly yourself, what would your best advice be?
So my journey down yesterday was actually relatively short in the sense that I was essentially traveling down from around about 3:30. I arrived in London at around about 6:30. So I essentially went ahead and made sure that I maximized that control I had earlier in the day. Went very, very lean there. Honestly, I went ahead. And for me, I don't mind going a little bit hungry in the morning. Typically, I'm not overly hungry then anyway. So essentially what I did, skipped breakfast, went ahead, had a protein shake at around about 12, just before I went ahead and got in the car, head to the station, had myself my lunch again. That was chicken, veggie based, and a very basic carb as well. And then went ahead. And when I got here, that gave me a little bit more flexibility to consume what was available. Thankfully, the restaurant that we actually have upstairs in the hotel here had calories on the menu. So it was actually a case of keeping it reasonably simple in that respect at the moment. I'm essentially just looking to maintain. So again, that gave me a little bit more flexibility. But what I like to do when I'm looking at menus specifically, if it's somewhere as well that you've not necessarily had the opportunity to discuss with your coach, maybe it's somewhere that A, you could have just forgotten to send a menu. B, maybe it's been selected last minute. Maybe you don't have Wi-Fi wherever you're traveling to, whatever that might be. And if you've not had that opportunity, I would always look for transparent meals on the menu. So when looking at the description, if you can identify a protein source, a carbohydrate source, a vegetable source, and a method of cooking, those are the 4 things that I'm typically looking out for in the description of a food item on a menu, to gain the information to kind of know, okay, how's this going to fit for me?
Solid. There you go. What an answer. Also very jealous because those who don't know Sam's protein shakes in the morning, they slap. They absolutely slap. They're so good. He was the protein shake master when we were over in New Jersey. They're amazing.
I'll drop the recipe soon.
Yeah, I'll drop my prog recipe.
Yeah, and then for myself, honestly, I'm in a deficit at the moment that I knew was going into this weekend, that we were going to probably have a couple of drinks. I'm going to have less control over my nutrition. So as a function of doing that, I just pull my calories down more than I usually do to accommodate the fact that I do want to give myself to be able to have 2,500 calories on Friday and still be able to be in a deficit for the week. So essentially all that I did was I got up, waited until my flight, had a smoothie before my flight. And then when we got over here, I essentially fasted throughout the duration of the day, and then I got myself a tofu stir fry, and that was it. It was very, very straightforward. And then for today, we've had a big day. We've been down. We recorded. It was 10 podcasts, so we 10 podcasts recorded
until 3.
Had my first meal at 3 o'clock. At that stage, I just wanted calories, so got calories and a protein shake in, and then we'll go for a little bite to eat now in the evening. And we haven't really even thought about what we're going to do there. To be fair.
They sent some recipes.
But something I just put in the chat there is the satiety index. That can be a really, really nice visual tool of some foods that are helpful for fat loss. Okay, so what the satiety index did was it took white bread as the baseline and it compared other foods in relation to white bread. So you see, for example, potatoes are up there. They have a score of 300%, meaning that they were 3 times as satiating as white bread. If you were to use that list there, and give you some insights into some of the foods that you should be trying to incorporate in a little touch more. Essentially, the overarching thing that you kind of see when you look through that is foods like potatoes, oats, fruit, veg are really should be staples of a diet driving fat loss. But the next thing that we do need to talk about is a lot of fat loss is not about nutrition. A lot of fat loss is not about nutrition. It's about headspace management and organization. Once you know what to do nutrition wise, which is very, very basic, eat protein, eat veg, do it the majority of the time, then it's about organization and headspace management. So that is our kind of next most important thing to touch on there. So Sam, anything on the kind of organization thing that you would speak to?
Yeah, I think one thing kind of combines the two, and that is knowing ahead of time what you are going to eat. Rather than giving yourself that kind of degree of randomness. I think a lot of the time we can kind of fall into a trap of, okay, we've gone through our full work day and then we sit down and we think, what are we going to make for tea? Or what are we going to make for dinner, I should say, because no one's going to know what I mean when I say, what should we make for tea? So if you can have that plan in place first, and that does come down to potentially prepping, potentially having a meal plan, things like that, that works out nicely. And then the flip side of that is some degree of organization around your environment as well, to ultimately set you up for as much success as possible. If you can make it easier to succeed and harder not to succeed, just by way of adapting the environment that you're actually living in or find yourself in. You're instantly in a much, much better position. So an example would just simply be if you have foods that are kind of kryptonite, or foods that you struggle not to overindulge in, not having them in the house probably sets you up for a slightly more successful fat loss period, right? And that's just one example of that. So another example that I actually gave on a podcast earlier would be if you forget to take your creatine, but you always remember to have a coffee in the morning, put your creatine next to your coffee machine. Little tips like that can actually make engaging in beneficial behaviors significantly easier for you.
Okay. So it's essentially what you've said there is make the behavior that you want to engage in easier.
Yeah.
And make the behavior that you don't want to engage in more difficult by putting a barrier in there, like modifying your home food environment so you've net less kind of calorie dense foods available.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly
cool.
that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. And then on the kind of organization side of things, I think one of the things that you really should be doing is just like thinking about your next couple of days and how you're going to get your nutrition sorted. Like unless you're somebody who can like just full ass like willpower your way through a day, where you're just more than happy to go that little bit hungry and be fine with it. The majority of us are not. If you're an individual like that, then you'll get away with not organizing and preparing things. But if you're an individual who like will find themselves like having that drive towards consuming foods when they're hungry, when they're tired, when they're stressed, if they don't have meals available, a big thing is like putting in your prep times. So when are you going to prep and organize your meals for the week? Are you going to do it in the evening for the next day? Are you going to do it in the morning on the day of? How are you going to organize the prep your meal so you've got control of your nutrition? Because if you go into a day and you try and wing it, that's what you're going to do. You're just going to wing it. You're going to essentially hope for the best. And that like very rarely leads to successful outcomes. So one of the things that's really damn important is that we don't withdraw from our social lives. It was one of the things that popped up there about withdrawing from like family events. That's not an option. It's not an option. But in saying that, like going out for food 3-4 times a week is not going to be feasible. It's just not going to be feasible. So we need to be able to have that communication with our loved ones about different forms of stuff to do together. That is essentially what it is. So different forms of socializing. So for myself, when I meet the lads, I'll meet them. We'll either go for a walk or we'll go for a coffee. Like 90% of the time when I meet my friends, I'm either going to go for a walk or I'm going to go for a coffee. The 10% that we probably will be going for drinks or for food, sure, because that's a normal thing to be able to do as well. But if you can set things up in such a way that when you're meeting people or when you're going on dates, you can organize it around something that's fun, something that's physically active. Can we go and play paddle together? Can we go for a swim? Like, can we go to the gym? Something that's actually enjoyable physical activity, or something that isn't solely revolved around food, because that's naturally what we do anyway. We socialize around food.
I think activities are a really, really good one. So it's maybe something like mini golf, or say I'm going out with Kirst. We'll typically do mini golf. We'll do 10-pin bowling, and it kills me when she beats me every single time. We recently actually booked some form of go-karting. Zach will be jealous about that one. So little activities, things like that. I think coffee and gym are kind of the two kind of go-tos that are relatively easy, or exploring somewhere, a little walk, something like that. You can also have a really significant amount of fun with a good activity like that. And that's always something that I like to lean into.
Yeah. The next thing is like, you can still go for food, just like have a go-to restaurant that you're going to go. Like, okay, actually, I'm very, very confident that the calories on these menus are actually accurate. And as a function of doing that, that's something you can incorporate in the odd time, even if we bake in the fact that the menu is probably not inaccurate or not accurate calorie-wise. With that being said, other than that, guys, anything in particular else popping up?
I would like to say that we have to become comfortable with the word no thank you. Unfortunately, there will be experiences where you will be kind of guilt tripped into, oh, come on, have a dessert, have a little bit of peace, which is, as Dee said, if it's happening every now and then, it's okay. but just know you don't have to sacrifice your goals, and not sacrifice. You don't have to let go of what you are striving for just because you want to please another person. It is okay to say, no, thank you, not today, but I'm looking forward to, celebrating your birthday in next couple of months when, I'm going to be finished maybe with my fat loss. Long story short, you don't want to prolong your fat loss by abandoning your goals for other people's comfort. It is okay to say no. It doesn't mean you're rejecting them. It doesn't mean you don't love them. You're currently just focused a little bit more on some other things.
Yeah, I think there's two nice ways of viewing that. One is this a social event or is this an occasion? Occasions you're going to want to enjoy maybe a little bit more. So that could be a wedding anniversary. That could be a birthday. That could be something like Thanksgiving, Christmas, something like that, where you do want to enjoy a little bit more. Or is this just a new restaurant's opened up and you kind of want to give it a go? If that's the case, you can be a little bit more kind of structured in and around that. And then also the way to make that a little bit easier to maintain that structure is take emphasis away from the food when it comes to that social. So not all socials, we just discussed some options there. Not all socials are going to be activity based. We are going to go to restaurants. We are going to go to places where food is about and things along those lines. But what's that social about to you is a lot more important than what that social is potentially about to someone else, right? So in the sense that if you're meeting up with some friends at a new restaurant and they're friends that you've not touched base with in a while, the goal or the focus of that social is to catch up with friends who you've not seen in a little while, right? As opposed to the food. So if you can actually take some of that emphasis away from the food at that social event, mentally it actually becomes a lot easier to say, you know what, I'm going to make a smart choice with my food decision here. My goal is actually create some connections with these people who I've not seen in a while. And as long as I'm able to get that out of this, I'm going to go away very, very happy.
Cool. Okay. So just two things before we do bring the call to a close. One of the first things that I think is actually the most important is looking at the relationship between your well-being and your nutrition adherence. There's going to be a really strong correlate between how good you're feeling mentally and your ability to do the harder thing, which is to adhere to eating in a deficit. Okay. So one of the big things that you want to do is look at how can I incorporate a little bit more like fun and enjoyment into my life to make sure my headspace is in a good spot. So what that actually looks like is, can you like learn to play an instrument? If you play an instrument already, can you practice it a little bit more? Can you spend some time like a little bit more like playtime with the kids? Can you practice some mindfulness? Can you focus on your sleep quality? Can you meet up with family or give family a call and all the time? Like anything that kind of drives positive emotion and also kind of rectifies other sources of negative emotion. If we can deal with how our headspace is as a function of having a better headspace, our nutrition adherence is going to be easier. Okay. And then the kind of final point that comes to mind for myself is the fact that like nutrition or fat loss and the individuals who are most successful, it's largely driven by people not making it their primary goal. They're busy working on other more important goals. So they're working on career progress or like spending time with family and friends, or they're working on getting stronger. And they just have good nutrition structure in the background, because that takes the stress away from it. When we put too much emphasis on the importance of fat loss, that actually ends up being counterproductive. So if we can just set a good nutrition structure, nutrition template in place, set a good physical activity target, and be okay with this taking time to get us to where we want to be, whilst we still enjoy our life, still pursue goals outside of fat loss, naturally as a function of doing that, you'll end up in a better spot. Yes, it might take a little touch longer, but you'll be in a better headspace going towards it. Other than that, nothing else for me, guys. Anybody else have anything to add in?
Completely agree with the social stuff. You know what I mean? Being active. Oh, the driving range at the moment. Oh, what a social, honestly. Just get in there, smacking a few balls as far as you can. The best, honestly.
The last time I went to a driving range, I hit the ball and it hit the ceiling and bounced back towards us. And I was like, right, I'm off, lads.
Nah, I mean, as like it's quite a lot of people, and especially some of the clients as well. I've been noticing obviously the Ryder Cup has been happening at the moment. Bit of a
Don't bring that up with US people here.
Yeah, I completely understand. But it was a great sort of match, anyways, and it was very tight towards the end. But since then, I was like, oh, I've been at the driving range like crazy, just smacking balls.
Yeah.
Right, guys. If you do want to be entered into a draw to win, David, what is the voucher?
It's a $250 Hypervolt voucher, guys. So yeah, excited. Make sure you tag either myself, D, Sam, or your coach on there as well.
Yeah.
He forgot my name then.
The little one sitting beside Dermot.
I can't forget about you, Sam.
Awesome, guys.
Yeah, as always, appreciate everyone who did come through, and yeah, look forward to seeing you all next week as well.
Yeah, and we have a team meeting tomorrow, so looking forward to seeing all the lads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the lads.
Oh,
you are included in
I'm a lad.
all of the lads. Has the girls baked into that as well, so give it a rest.
You're one of the lads, and you know it.
Right, cheers, guys. See you tomorrow.
Cheers.
And
Bye.